All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Morning Cup. I'm joined with one of my good friends, Laura. So thank you for being here with us, Laura.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me and having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we decided before the show that we're gonna do a little girl talk today. Because your girl over here is stressed. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Yeah, we'll start there. What do you do?
I am a strength coach based in Seattle, and I provide in-person sessions and remote training as well. I own my own training business, Liberate Strength. I've had it for 5 years now. So basically, got out of school, worked at a commercial gym, did all that, and then started. It was originally LS training because I just used my initials because I had no idea what I wanted to call it, and then went through several rounds of rebranding and evolved into what it is today, Liberate Strength. And basically, I help people, especially women, learn how to strength train, get them under a barbell, maybe for the first time, build confidence in the gym through knowledge. And then I also have a small group of competitive powerlifters that I take around to local meets and, help them hit the platform confidently and successfully, and hopefully, have a really fun time in the process. So yeah, it's a pretty cool job. I love it.
I love to hear that you've rebranded a few times. I
Mhm.
think I've just known you since you've been Liberate Strength.
Yeah.
And also, is that pun intended of like your initials?
Yeah, honestly, when I was working with my branding person, because we were just coming up with words that like kind of matched the brand, and like, I'm really about obviously like female empowerment, like most of us female strength coaches are. And then I was just throwing up words up there, and I was like, well, liberate strength kind of goes with it because like LS, so it like already kind of coincides, and we're like, cool, that works. So yeah, and it's really grown on me, and I like it, and I feel like the more I've had it, like the more it kind of embodies my brand. So
Yeah, I feel like naming something is the hardest
it's so
part.
hard. Like it took me 5 years to like come up with an actual name. I was
That
just
makes me
like,
feel better.
yeah, no, it's literally like it was like not. It was so stressful at first, and I just was like, okay, you just need a name to get started. And then I got so busy and like couldn't bother like working on it. And I was finally like, okay, I should probably actually like put my brand together and be more cohesive and like get a professional logo and all that. And then so yeah.
Yeah, I feel like most of the people I talk to that have their businesses, the logo and stuff comes after you
Yeah,
start.
for sure. Yeah. So that's why whenever I like, I've done a couple like mentorships for like other trainers, mostly in business. And I'm always like, don't even worry about your name and your logo because that'll come and evolve. Like, obviously, like, they tell you things in business like worry about like your ideal client or client avatar, like that also like evolves and come like the more you're in business too. So like don't get married to an idea of what your brand should be because you might try and realize you don't like it, but that's kind of just part of it, right? So it definitely is like an evolution.
I love that you say that because it's so stressful trying to figure it all out at once
Yeah,
and kind
it
of going along
is.
with, yeah, it's like, man, and also there's so many businesses that are already a thing. So it's like trying to find any words that aren't what is already taken is so
Yeah, for
hard too.
sure. Yeah, and I think for the most part, like, fitness businesses can be pretty like repetitive and like the verbiage we use and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, especially if you're a personal coach and your personal brand, like people come to work with you, right? Like not necessarily like they could get what you're giving them from anybody, but like, it's your connection with the individual and the way you guys click on that level that I feel like really makes a difference in terms of like who someone chooses to work with as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you just kind of figure it out as you go. I
Yeah,
think yeah, it just kind of is the hardest part is starting
definitely.
and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, for
Um
sure.
just gotta rip off the band-aid,
Uh-huh.
sounds like.
Yep, that's what you got to do. And I feel like that's something I feel like that's almost like my superpower in a way because I'm pretty good and have been good at all my life kind of at like okay, I'm just going to do this thing and like turn my brain off and go do it. And I feel like because that's a similarity we have that comes from riding horses because like you can't
Mhm.
think sometimes. You just have to go do the thing because if your horse feels your nervous energy, it doesn't
Oh
work. So
yeah.
it's like turn the brain off, go do the thing. And I feel like that's a skill I've carried like all my life and I'm actually very thankful for it.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. So, I want to talk about the horse stuff because so Laura and I kind of could I think we connected because I posted something about horse girls
Yeah,
and
probably.
being in fitness. And it was this weird realization I had since I moved to Seattle. Like I've been so lucky to be connected with like you and all the other strength coaches that are women in our group that we
Hmm.
have.
Yeah,
And it's so fun, but it's also like I realized a lot of these girls were also horse girls.
I know.
So
It's
there's this weird
funny.
parallel.
Yeah.
But yeah, you really have to do stuff that sucks, like wake up when it's still dark and cold outside and
That's what
you're on a horse.
strength coaches do all the time. We've been doing it
Exactly.
since we were little.
It was like a natural progression, you know,
Yeah,
because it was also farm fit because you're like lifting heavy stuff
yeah.
and
You're constantly walking. Like, you can't just like sit and like do your work to be always
no.
moving. Yeah,
Well, it's also a job. Like I think it's a really good thing for kids to learn to do to
for
be
sure.
responsible for something else other than themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to like respect it too, because it's like a 1-ton animal that could like
Destroy
murder
you.
you. Yeah. And you're like a 10-year-old and you're like, I love you, don't kill me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like there's so many. So I rode like the small ponies for a
Yeah.
long time and they're very mean.
I
They're
love
so
the
mean.
small ponies because they're so funny. Because they're so
I
mean,
know.
but you're just like, haha.
Like I
I love you so
love
much and you want to kill me.
you.
I love them.
So what's one of the craziest like have you ever got injured
Oh,
or almost injured? What was your craziest fall off story?
I've definitely gotten trampled a couple times. I mean, like, I was pretty lucky when I was a kid. I never got like hurt. I mean, there's definitely probably times like I should have gone to get checked out, but I didn't because I didn't want my mom to not let me go to the barn. And I was like, it's
Yep.
fine. I don't hurt
It's
that
fine.
bad. Yeah. I think one a crazy fall I had was on my horse, and this was not super recent, but he's old, and like I didn't realize how old he was at the time, but we were like cantering and he tripped over like a mound of dirt or something, and he full on face planted in the ground, and I felt so bad. I went flying over his head, and we both like face planted the dirt, and I got up, and his poor little mouth was like cut, and I like freaked out and like called the emergency vet right away, and they're like, oh, he just like had the tiniest little like cut on his lip. Um, but it just looked so scary in the moment because of all the blood. I was like, dead. And then like let's see, 2000 like 3 years ago, I was same horse, Kit Kat. I was picking out his back foot, and then he just like had to stretch, so it was totally unintentional. But he kicked me like square in the nose, like right under my nose. And I was so lucky I didn't break anything. I didn't break my nose. I didn't lose any teeth. But it was just like immediate, just like blood everywhere. I was like, oh my gosh, what just
Oh my.
happened? And then yeah, my nose was bleeding, and then I had like this small little cut like under my nose. But then it was like totally fine. I like went to the urgent care and got it like glued, like super glued shut. But yeah, I was super lucky. Like no concussion, no teeth knocked
Wow.
out. Yeah. Not
Yeah, you
everyone
could
can
have.
get kicked in the face and be like, I was fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No. So
So
I
that was
heard
a
of
fun
a.
time. What about
I
you?
knew a. Oh man. Well, first of all, it's like worse when they get hurt, you know?
Yeah,
Like your
for
first
sure.
story, it's like, I don't even matter. Are you okay?
Yeah, literally. You're like, is he okay? I feel like sometimes your horse is also like, what are you doing down there?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're so lucky you didn't break your nose.
I know. I was like, because like one of my old riding instructors at the barn too, and she had like a couple months ago gotten kicked in the face and her tooth got knocked out. So I like immediately like checked my teeth. I was like, oh, they're all okay. Okay, we're good. I looked down. I'm like, that's a lot of blood. Okay, maybe we're not okay.
Oh my gosh. I knew a woman who got kicked square in like the forehead
Oh,
and she was actually like knocked out in a pool of her own
oh
blood.
gosh, scary.
Yeah, this is what we do, right?
Yeah, and we're
Um
like, I love it.
yeah, it's like I can't stop.
Yeah,
I it's like a toxic relationship,
it
but not
really
really because
is.
they're so nurturing.
Yeah, and they don't mean
I
it.
they don't mean to.
Yeah.
I fell off a lot of times. The worst one was like when I got the most injured was I broke my arm. It
Yeah.
was like the most pathetic fall though, so
Like put your arm
it
out.
I did.
Yeah.
I I do what you're not supposed to do. He like
Just
slowly
instinct.
slowed down to the jump, and then I put my arm out and just toppled over his head,
Yeah.
and
And they,
arm was bent backwards.
oh,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah, so that was fun, and I've gotten luckily that was I think the worst one ever. Like I've gotten thrown off in defenses and like I've
Yeah.
fallen off underneath jumps before.
Yeah.
I think this one of the scariest ones where I could have gotten bad messed up was I was washing my horse at a horse show, and I was underneath him, not underneath him, but like washing his legs, crouched down, and he got
Yeah.
spooked and like
Oh,
ran like
jeez.
over me,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm underneath
Don't
you.
move. Don't move.
Please.
You know I'm here, right?
Man, but like I said, we kept going back,
Yeah.
you know?
A little
Yeah.
crazy, I guess.
It's fun to talk about it though. Like looking
I know.
back,
It's
it's
like so
like,
fun to share
man,
like horse stories with other horse girls. You're just like, one time this horse like almost killed me. You're like, oh, me too.
let's trauma bond.
Yeah. Like, but I love him.
Yeah, I think quitting was the hardest thing I
Yeah.
had to do.
Yeah, I couldn't
So,
imagine. Like I even just want to like even when my old horse like eventually passes, I want to like at least like groom ponies and like brush them because it's like it's so soothing. It's so nice. So,
it's so therapeutic.
yeah.
Yeah. Just being around them is just like a calming presence.
Yeah. I swear they're just like a different like dogs are therapeutic, but I swear horses have like a different like quality about them that makes them like so special to humans and like the bond is just so different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's also like the atmosphere, like where you're at the barn and
Yeah, like
there's no really,
unplugged.
yeah, there's no concept of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss that. So I really appreciate you letting me come out
Oh yeah,
there.
come out whenever you want.
I know I need to do that
Kit
again.
Kat loves visitors.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, he literally rolls in the same spot. Like when Laura walks him to this one spot
Yeah,
in his
every time.
yard.
Oh my gosh, I have such a funny story. On Monday, he was getting ready to roll, like doing his little circles, like sniffing the ground. And I like had a text. I was looking at my phone, and then he literally paused and looked at me. He's like, "Hello, I'm about to do the thing." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry." So I like look at him. He's like, "Okay," and he like starts again and like turns in circles and gets down and rolls. So I think it's
He
our little
knows.
like ritual now, like our little grazing ritual. He has to go roll in the dirt.
He knows that you eat it up.
Yeah, it's so funny. He's like, "Look at me,
Yeah.
mom." It's so cute.
Ugh. He just like takes a little nap down there. Like he just
Yeah.
literally will lay there
He's like, "This
for a
is
little
so
bit.
nice."
He's a dog. He's actually a dog.
I love it. It's my favorite.
So, kind of going from, our horse show days and like our riding stuff and like
Yeah.
connecting that parallel to strength training, how did you get into powerlifting?
So I actually got into so I went from horseback riding, and when I went to college, I got into rowing. So rowing was kind of where I found more of like my competitive fire, if you will say, because when I was riding horses, like it's very expensive. So I never got
Hmm.
super deep into the horse show world, which honestly, like I'm kind of thankful for. Like I from hearing about all the political stuff that happens when you get too much into competition, I was like, okay, maybe it's good I didn't get too much into that.
Yep.
But so when I started rowing, I went to Seattle Pacific, and that's when I was on the rowing team, and I really enjoyed like the competitive atmosphere that we had there. And I enjoyed like having teammates and being out on the water every day and like trying to get better every day. But I really loved being in the weight room because I was a much better like lifter than I was rower because I'm pretty short. I'm like 5'2", and most rowers are like 6 feet and over. So I'm like little tiny me trying to catch up with these giant girls.
I didn't
um,
realize that they were that
yeah, and
tall.
then after I was done rowing, I wanted something competitive to do still because I was like, well, I liked having like a reason to be training. Like I liked like translating training, and I majored in exercise science and wanted to get into strength and conditioning. So I really enjoyed like the programming aspect and like the transfer to sport. And then so I was like, well, I really like lifting. So I was like looking at different, like how to get into powerlifting meets. And it's really cool because Washington State does what are called rookie meets, where people who never have powerlifted before can enter a meet and get paired with an experienced lifter. And they kind of show you the ropes and show you like what to do, where to be, and the timing of everything. So it's super helpful if you've never done anything before and like don't know where to start. So I entered one of those and then just like loved it and then just started training competitively and did a couple meets. That was in 2019, so I got 3 meets in before COVID in 2020, and then kind of just like had to chill, and then came back when stuff opened up to start competing again. So yeah.
That's really cool that they do that here in Seattle.
Yeah,
Like
it's so cool. And I didn't
yeah.
realize it's not really a thing in other states because other coaches have flown in from other states to like coach their lifters at these rookie meets. And they're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Like they have what are called mentors. And now I've volunteered as a mentor at these meets, which is kind of fun. It's like full circle. And
Yeah.
you just kind of help out the lifters, like, because once you're in a meet full of experienced lifters, you go back to rookie meet, you're like, oh wow, no one knows what they're doing, and that's fine because we're here to help them. But yeah, it's a really cool concept, and it makes like the barrier to entry a lot lower for sure.
Yeah. One of my friends, he works at Exos. His name's EJ. I think you might know
Yeah,
him.
I know him.
You met him at a
Yeah,
at a
yeah,
meet.
I've seen him at several meets now, and I refed his platform at his last meet. And I'm friends with his coach, Madison. So
Oh, so
yeah,
cool.
small world.
It really is. When you get into fitness, the world's pretty small, and then you get into fitness and it's like 10 times smaller.
Especially in Seattle. Seattle
It
is like such a
is.
small world, actually.
It is so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah. So
fun.
yeah, I know EJ got into it.
Yeah,
I think he first competed last year
yeah. I
or two
think he was
years
at a
ago.
rookie meet I was mentoring at. That's where I met him. And I remember like I'll be like, "Oh, you work at Exos? That's really cool," and like asking him about like the strength and conditioning stuff there. So yeah, he's
Yeah,
a cool
he's
guy.
great.
Yeah,
We
he's
love
awesome.
EJ. He's a good vibe.
Yeah, he's
Shout out
fun.
EJ.
Hi, EJ.
But yeah, I'm also curious because I really love learning just how people program. And so this might be a loaded question and you don't
Yes.
have to go into specifics at all because
Hmm.
that might be kind of hard without being specific to one person.
Yeah.
But how does your powerlifting training like kind of vary like based off of in comparison to Gen Pop, for example?
Yeah.
Well, Gen Pop's very, typically basic, but what does your powerlifting programming kind of look like?
Yeah, so I mean, in theory, right, like the periodization of both is very similar. I would say the only big difference with powerlifting, strength training, and like Gen Pop training, like obviously my powerlifters will shift into more of a general training when they're not in competition prep because they need to do their cardio still, they need to do their mobility, they need to be explosive, they need to be able to jump and all that stuff,
Mhm.
right? Like Gen Pop, obviously, with like contraindications aside. But the big difference is like we'll just get a lot more specific in your competition lifts. So your back squat, bench press, and deadlifts, your more conventional deadlifts, and we'll train those year round, well, whether it be competition specific or variations. And then obviously when we are in competition prep mode, we'll be a lot more specific and probably training mostly just competition lifts. And that probably varies the most from like Gen Pop, where like we'll still do like those movement patterns like squat, a push pull hinge, so you can have your squat bench deadlift still in like a Gen Pop program, but they might not be. Obviously they're going to be, we can use more variations that suit the person. So like if I have someone who back squats just don't work for them, I could have them do front squats or goblet squats or belt squats instead. We'll do some sort of push, whether that be dumbbell bench or it could be bench press or incline bench or whatever works, right? But we'll just be a lot less specific. Whereas my powerlifting clients have a lot more specificity in their programs for sure.
Yeah. So curious, because I've never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
How would you program like the squat, bench, deadlift day? Do they get their own days? Do you do two on the same day?
Yeah, so usually right now I've been really liking programming squats and deadlifts typically on the same day because in a meet you never really deadlift fresh, right? Because the order of the meet goes squat, then you do bench press, then you do deadlifts. So unless someone like really needs to work on bringing up their deadlift because it's a weak point, I usually have them squat before they deadlift, and then we'll have upper lower splits. So I'll do upper body, meaning bench press, and then any accessories that they need, squat, deadlift, and then leg accessories. And then usually people need more bench press frequency, so we'll do another bench press day. And then I usually will include a squat, bench, deadlift day to be specific to competition, just because you want to, not only are you training the lifts, but you're also learning how to lift at those intensities under fatigue too, because if you really think about it, like at a meet, like it is maximal strength, but you are having to do it to some sort of submax capacity because of the fatigue from the subsequent lifts. And just the length of the day too. So it's important to build up that quote unquote fitness in order to, have that capacity to be able to do it at a meet, because a big thing I see in a lot of like first time powerlifters, if they never trained like that before, by the time you get to deadlifts, you're pretty gassed because you've just done like
Right.
you've done 6 pretty max or near maximal lifts, 3 in your squat and 3 in your bench. So by the time you get to deadlifts, it could be like 6 hours since you started squats, and you could be pretty tired by then. So it's important to like be able to train your body to have endurance for that stuff. Um, if it's not near competition, then I might not include it just because squat, bench, deadlift days take a while and are pretty fatiguing.
I
So it's
can't
like, again, it
imagine.
kind of like anything, it kind of just depends, but that's typically how I would program for someone who's competing.
That's super helpful and insightful because I have never trained like that before.
Yeah.
My whole background is like endurance and
Hmm.
training for triathlons.
Yeah.
So, and I'm super curious. I was reading Louis Simmons' like West Side Barbell.
Yeah.
Do you follow kind of his type of programming to an extent?
Yeah. I would say like I typically train with a little bit more conjugate concepts or more of a daily undulating concept versus like a linear periodization approach. I personally just find it more fun because I find it really boring when I'm doing it in a block of volume, like in a typical linear program where have like sets of 8s and they go to 6s and they go to 4s. Like I get really bored with that, and I really like having the variation, and I love going heavy. So max effort work is really fun. And I love the way that they program the accessories, like, high volume, blood flow, pump, pump, pump. So I just
Yep.
find that kind of training fun. And I think a lot of people do find it fun too, because you're varying up your training and you're doing different stuff, but you get to go heavy and you get to like go hard still, but you don't have to. I just find like the linear a little boring personally. So I like to vary it up throughout the week. So yeah, I do. I would say probably a little bit more than other like USAPL coaches kind of follow more of that format.
Right. I would agree too. I personally love like doing the high volumes, like the pump stuff,
Yeah,
because
it's
it
so
just feels
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels good. It's like, man, I like feel like juiced up in my
Hmm.
shoulders and my
Yeah.
traps.
And I think
Like,
it's so good for your tendons and your joints too. I mean, to some capacity, right? But you can only go heavy and low reps so much in a workout, right? But then
right.
like adding in that extra volume and extra blood flow, I think is just really helpful to just stay healthy and also just keep your fitness up to some degree too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like just keeping everything, like the blood flow, nutrients running through your joints
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Just kind
Especially
of
like as
flushing stuff out.
Yeah, especially as like powerlifters, like we don't want to do like super. We do like some sort of cardio, but obviously we don't want to do like as high volume cardio as like an endurance athlete would, right? Because that'll clash with training. But we do want to keep our tissues in condition to some degree, so we do have the capacity to train at higher volumes than we need to. So that form of like accessory work is really helpful for that.
Yeah, I'm sure also like the CNS fatigue that they
Hmm.
experience
Oh
is
yeah,
just exhausting
yeah. So like
to
having
an
those
extent.
lighter like accessories where you just do more reps, it's just like, oh, it's gonna go burn a little bit. That's nice.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I'm not seeing stars.
Yeah. I can breathe. It's just burning. I'll just get sore, but it's fine. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
Cool. That's really fun. I think I'd like to go just watch one
Yeah,
sometime.
you should. It's super fun. You should come watch the one we're hosting. You should do the one we're hosting in October, the push pull.
Girl, I have thought about it. I
You
was like, how
should.
crazy would it be
Oh my
if
gosh, it
I
would be
did a
so fun.
I have really like been thinking about it. I haven't told now I'm telling everyone. But I really was thinking about it. I was like, what if I did a triathlon this year and then I did a powerlifting meet?
Yeah, that'd be so fun. Oh my gosh, you totally should. And we
I
like it
might.
would be at the gym too, so it'd be like super close to you.
Oh, Aspire?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah. In October?
Hmm. October 26th.
And like the thing is with my like with triathlon training, like I'm still lifting heavy. I
Yeah,
think that's a
as you should be for
misconception
sure.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception is like just because you do endurance sports like you did with your rowing, like you still need to lift heavy shit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
So
that like is a big pet peeve of mine when people get into like endurancey stuff and they like stop. I'm like, no, you need to keep lifting. It's just like if you do powerlifting, it doesn't mean you can't do you have to stop doing cardio. You should do cardio. And like I was just talking about this today, and this might be a tangent for us to talk
please
about.
go.
But so you know how like hybrid training has become a big thing?
Oh, I'm so happy you brought this
And
up.
I'm like, guys, this is not a new trend. It shouldn't be. Every like good fitness program, any well-rounded, whether it's strength program, endurance program, should have aspects of strength and endurance and all of those things, hypertrophy, whatever it is. So it's just so funny when people are like, wow, like running's coming back in, or like what. I'm just like, no, it's always been in. Like,
Running's always been here.
yeah, like no, you can do all the things. Like it's not wrong. You don't have to follow like just because like I have a goal to like powerlift competitively and be the best that I can be at that. So that's why I train that way. But like if you're not like if you're powerlifting but your main goal might not be to be just to powerlift, or like maybe you are an endurance athlete. There's so many benefits to doing cardio as a strength athlete, and so many benefits to doing strength training as an endurance athlete. So I just think it's so funny how people like have been starting to talk more about that like kind of hybrid concurrent training, when it really like as like strength and conditioning experts, we're both kind of like that's always been a thing. We're like that's just how you should program.
Yes. Well, that's like the popular thing on social media that's like getting all the likes and
Mm-hmm.
shares. And it, like you kind of just said, it's just like running has been probably the oldest form of
Yeah.
exercise. Like since we were
Yeah.
cavemen,
Yeah, for sure.
running to get our
Yeah.
food.
And it's not like, and fitness shouldn't be like a trend. Like it's
Yeah.
trendy to like have certain things to post, but like I think that's one, like social media has so many like benefits in terms of fitness, like when you can find good sources of education. But I think a big detriment is like it tends to paint a picture that like there are trends to fitness, like, oh, now it's cool to do Pilates, and now it's cool to be lifting weights, and now it's cool to ollie lift, and like just like do what you guys want. But that's why I think that like having goals is so important, so you can have a direction, and your goals can evolve and change. But especially when you work with a coach, it's so important to have like some sort of goal in mind, and then they can help kind of guide and steer you and direct you to like what the best way to reach that would be, or what might a better goal might be. So
Yeah, I think that brings up an interesting point of, first of all, like validating everything you just said. I'm totally on the
yeah.
same page. Um, Another thing is like when you have clients come to you that don't really
Yeah.
have goals. I think, I mean, that happens so
Mm-hmm.
often. Um, and then sometimes they kind of have goals along the
Yeah.
way of like, oh, I want to actually compete. So I have a client who like wants to compete in we do a G Fit
Uh-huh.
games
Oh, it's so
at Google.
fun.
So yeah. So she wants to
Oh, that's
compete because
awesome.
she wants to be able to
Yeah.
deadlift, yeah, and squat and bench. So that's gonna be like my first
Oh my
powerlifting
gosh, that's
client if you
so
think about it.
fun. That's such a cool thing. That is that through Exos, or is it like a Google thing?
It's a
Okay.
Google
Oh,
thing.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. So it's really cool to get like there's a lot of powerlifters
Yeah.
there actually. The big powerlifting community, especially in California, I think, or like the Bay Area, they have a really
Yeah,
big
I mean,
one.
like, you'd be surprised. I
But
feel like tech people, like people who work at Google, tend to be like
mm-hmm.
into powerlifting or bouldering. Like, I find that
Oh,
very
yep.
common. And I'm like, it must be like
Yep.
the way that like powerlifting can be so technical, and you following like a program that it just must attract that kind of people, those kind of people who also like bouldering and powerlifting are actually very similar, honestly, because you do your set and then you
It
sit and you
is.
like talk.
For a
Yeah, or you
while.
like try your project and then you like sit on the mats and talk. So
So do you
I
boulder
actually
at
used to,
all?
yeah, in college I was really into bouldering. It was kind of like my like fun thing to do outside of like after when I was done like with the day with like rowing and like cross training and all that. I would just go boulder for a couple hours at like Seattle bouldering, and it was really fun, but like it's time consuming, and also like I feel like now when like running a business and coaching, like I'm on so much with my brain that I don't want to go do an activity where I have to like sit and think. So I'm like
Yeah.
lifting is nice because like for me at this point it's very like like I don't really have to focus too much. Like it's very like intuitive. So that's like I can turn my brain off and like focus on like what I'm doing. Versus like if I was to boulder, I would have to like be like, oh yeah, I have to do this and like do that. And it would just be like mentally taxing too. And I'm like not ready to get back into it yet. But it's super fun. I would like to get back into it eventually.
First of all, I feel like I bet your grip strength was
It
amazing
was like I was
doing that.
so good at just double overhand deadlifts when I was climbing, and now it's gone.
The
Yeah,
fingers,
the
it's like the
finger
very
strength.
tip of your
Yeah.
finger is so
Yeah.
strong.
Well, I do hold my deadlifts like in my fingertips now, and I'm like I like hold the bar like right here, and I'm like it's probably from bouldering.
Yeah, man, that's so impressive because you're pulling some. What are you pulling these days?
My best deadlift is 385 for one and comp, and right now I've been doing sets. Well, right now I'm doing a lot of like singles and doubles, but I pulled my best set with straps a couple weeks ago, so I don't know if that counts. But I pulled 330 for 8 a couple weeks ago, if that gives context. But that was with straps, so that
Woo!
doesn't do it. That doesn't like say anything about my hand strength.
But you still are
I still did, so
strong.
yeah.
Like that's yeah, you still like got it
Yeah.
off the ground. That's I
Yeah.
count that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so
Yeah, it's taken a
impressive.
long time to come here, but it's and that's what I like about it is like strength training. I'm sure the same thing with endurance training. Like there's always stuff to get better at, and like it's kind of like you put in the work, you're gonna
Mhm.
get better. So it's like it's fun in that sense to me.
And it's also I find the better you get, you make these smaller micro
Yeah, for sure.
progressions, you know? It's like trying to get to the next whatever
Hmm.
PR it is
Yeah,
for
it takes
you
longer.
makes it that much
Yeah, but
harder.
it's still
Yeah.
fun though because like it makes you realize that it teaches you a lot of lessons like how failure like isn't really you didn't really fail, you just learned something that didn't work, right? Because like if you keep putting in work
Mm.
like you're eventually going to hit something along the lines of your goals. And also it helps also shifting perspective, like the end result is not necessarily always the goal or like always a sign of progress. Like there's a lot of other little signs of progress along the way, like oh I held my RPE was lower for that set and it wasn't as low last week, right? Or like I held my positioning better like during this set of like 8 or whatever. So it's like it's nice to have those perspective shifts because I think that helps transfer to like life goals too. It's like the end result isn't necessarily what I need to chase all the time. I got to look at all the little side results along the way too.
I
Yeah.
love that. I'm gonna really butcher this quote, but it was like you don't want to walk through life without looking at the
Yeah,
roses or something.
totally. It's kind of the same
Like
thing.
it's kind of like
Like
that.
learning to just like be in the moment and not always be like, oh, I just want to be over there now, and like appreciating all the little like wins along the way and like all the little lessons you learn. So yeah, I like it. I really enjoy it.
That's huge for literally everything in life. Like like career
Mm-hmm.
wise, especially can be super easy to just want to be in the next place
Yeah,
already when maybe the reason where you like, where you are right now is serving you a
yeah.
purpose. I think about this
Yeah,
all the
I'm a
time.
really big believer in
Yeah.
that like you're like where you need to be right now, but you just need to like figure out why you're there or like learn whatever you can along the way. So it's just nice because life moves really fast and like stuff happens so quickly. So it's nice to like be able to like take a step back and just like appreciate like being in the moment. And I think training is just such a great metaphor for that because it just helps transfer to like life so much. So all the lessons you learn in the weight room.
Absolutely. Yeah, like being patient and like some weeks it's going to feel harder than
Hmm.
others and like
Yeah, and
respecting
just
your
being
body
okay with
enough to
that. Like
not
it is what it
push
is.
it.
Like you can't do anything about it right now, but you can just keep, paying attention to things that are going to help, like your recovery, your sleep, your nutrition, and also like just being prepared to come into the gym too, right? That's all huge to like the success of your training.
Right. So do you do your own programming or do you
So
also have a
I did
coach?
my own programming and coaching until I went to my first nationals in 2022, and that was pretty like special for me to be like I got myself to this level, and then after that I was coaching, a ton of people programming. I was writing like 40 to 50 programs a week and I was like I can't program for myself anymore. And at that
Mm-mm.
point I had already been like thinking like okay, maybe it's time to get a coach because like I've gotten myself to this level And I think like it's to get further, I would like probably need more insight from someone else. Because it's really easy to get in your own head, especially as you said, like the more advanced you get, the less progress you make at a time. So it's easy to be like, I'm not
Yeah.
making any progress and wanting to push yourself really hard when that might not be the thing to do at the moment. So after in August of 2022, I reached out to Alyssa Parton, who is with the Strength Guys, and I've been with her for since then. And she has been really awesome. I chose to work with her because she has a really strong science background. Like she's getting her PhD in like exercise physiology, I think. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But she's really smart in like the exercise science perspective, and that was really important to me, just from someone who also like really values like the physiology and biomechanics of programming and training. And she also has like similar programming styles that I like. So she's like really big into like conjugate and daily undulating periodization as well. And I like knew I didn't want like a more linear approach to training. I mean, everything's linear at the end of the day, but I knew I wanted that like more conjugate, like daily undulating kind of training, just because I found it
Right.
fun. And of course, like the biggest thing to adherence is if you enjoy your training. So I just wanted to make sure that I would enjoy whatever program I got. So been working her with her since then, and she's been awesome and giving me programs at work and communicating with me and like giving me tweaks to my technique that have helped like tremendously. And she peaks me so well for meets. It's like crazy. My squats gone up so much, especially at meets. Like the
Wow.
formula is just like there. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I think that's so important. I am a big believer in that, like coaches, maybe they don't need coaches, but it's helpful to
Totally.
have
Yeah.
them. Just because we, like you kind of said, we can get in our own heads, or like we have this one way of doing things, and it's nice to be exposed to someone else's, ideas.
I
And then,
love being coached by other coaches because it's so not even just for me to learn, but just hearing other coaching cues that I can take to my own clients. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's a good cue. Maybe that'll work with this client who I just cannot get to RDL correctly. Like those things.
right.
Like it can be just really helpful just to get more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just be a sounding
Mm-hmm.
board when, you want to like learn something new that you're not really sure
Yeah.
about. Um, I think that's
Yeah, and like seeing
invaluable.
how they structure their programs and stuff like that. Because again, like you get so used to doing it one way, but then you see someone else, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And take a little bit of this, a
I
little bit of
know.
that.
I have a coach
Uh huh.
too, and I've been with him for maybe a year and a half, and he's really changed my
That's
life. Like
awesome.
it's super powerful. Yeah, his name's Cooper. He's Delta
Uh
5
huh.
Performance. He was on two episodes
Okay.
ago. Um, but he just like changed my life entirely. I just felt like the I told him I felt the most unathletic I had ever felt in my
Yeah.
whole life. Just beaten down, like could not get out of this injury
Mm-hmm.
rut. And so I just was like, I have no other, I have nothing else that I can do for
Yeah.
myself. I need to
Yeah.
get help.
And I feel like,
Um,
especially as
yeah.
athletes, and we like athletes like to train hard, and I think coaching yourself as an athlete is tough because you just want to go hard, and that can often be like
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing to do for yourself, like going 100% every session, because that's just kind of like that's like what's at least for me that's like what's fun to do in the gym. And like I like feeling like I'm pushing myself and like working hard, but then like oftentimes like programming like big picture scheme, that's not the right thing to do. So it's nice to just have someone be like, just do this, and you're like, okay, RPE 7, I guess, like that's
Yeah.
fine, we'll do it. And then you're like, oh, okay, that actually I feel better and it's working. So
I know. It's like there's definitely, that's the other thing. It's like, coach, sometimes it's helpful because they make you do stuff you don't
yeah,
want to
for sure.
do. Like there's definitely things where, and told him this. I'm like, I really like fucking hate
Yeah.
these, but I have to do, like, you need it because then you eventually do
Yeah,
feel better in
yeah,
the long
for sure.
run.
Whether that's taking a step back or just doing an exercise you've always avoided because it sucked, or just like doing less or doing more. It just like depends on what you were doing and what you need. So
Yeah. That's so cool. I
yeah,
love it. I mean, I've learned so much, and I know you've
yeah,
learned a lot, and like it kind of also like translates to our clients as well. It's like we get this kind of like you mentioned, like we just get this extra
mm-hmm.
tool in our
Yeah, for
toolbox
sure.
and a different lens of just looking at programming
Mm-hmm.
and and our clients in
Yeah,
front of
for
us.
sure. It helps so much. And just like learning what works for you and then like seeing how it works for other people and stuff like that. So, yeah, I love talking to other coaches and like learning how they program, getting their insight on that stuff is because like I feel like the creative side of it gets tough. Like remembering all the exercises you have in your head and be like, oh yeah, that one. Like that's helpful to
Oh
know.
my
Like that's
gosh.
honestly I was telling another like coach, Instagram coach friend, I was like, honestly, half the reason I scroll on Instagram is oh yeah, that exercise, that's really good. Because I just
I
forget.
know. I feel the same way. I know. I program on
Uh-huh.
Bridge, and which one do
I
you
use
use?
Everfit.
Are you on
Yeah.
Everfit? I heard that's a
Yeah.
great one.
I love
Um, but it's just like hard to find. Like sometimes I get in this rut of like not getting into new exercises because I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot
Yeah.
about this one
There's
that I
so
like so
many.
much.
And then you
Yeah.
just forget.
Yeah, it's like, man, I used to
Yeah.
do this. Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, that thing. And then they come back and everyone's program was like, what the heck is this?
In
You're like, now you
everyone's,
all
yes,
get it.
yes. I know. See, Instagram can be a really
Hmm.
good tool because it definitely will jog your
Yeah,
memory
for sure.
and it brings you good
Yes, yes.
friends. It
Honestly,
brings you
like
good
I've been really
friends.
thankful for social media and like meeting people and like being able to like learn things. And obviously, my social media is probably a little more curated because like I know what to follow and what not to follow. But it's been great and like
Hmm.
so helpful and like just like networking and like learning stuff. So like it's such a good tool.
It's like the ultimate
It
networking
honestly
tool, in my
is. Like I'm
opinion.
like sometimes when some business owners like aren't on Instagram or like, oh, I don't use social media. I'm like, what are you doing? It's free.
I know. It's like everyone
Yeah,
has
it's
one.
free. It's not like you're too cool for social media. That's not a thing. Yeah.
No, no, anyone
Yeah.
can do it. It really has, it has, especially for me during quarantine, that's when I really
Yeah, I
started
think
to
that's when we
use
all
it.
really started to like get into it more.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was like what helped us feel
And
so
also we had
connected.
nothing else to do, so it's like I guess I'll make funny reels.
Also, yeah. And watch Tiger
Yeah.
King.
What a throwback. I forgot about that.
Let me put you on, girl.
What a strange show.
I mean, that it was that and
And
TikTok. That was what
Too Hot to Handle. You remember that? And
I
Love
didn't
is
watch
Blind.
that.
That's when we're all like, what is
Oh,
this?
I got into Love is Blind after like literally
Oh my
last year,
gosh.
so I'm
I
late.
was like all into it. And now I'm like, I probably need a break, but I know when the next season comes out, I'm going to be like, I have to watch it.
Oh man. I was the same way. I watched this last season and I'm like, man, I told my boyfriend, I'm like, man, this is so bad. But I was like, I can't, I
It's
gotta
like
see
a
what
train wreck.
happens.
It's like, it's so bad, but you can't stop watching. You're like, what's going to happen?
Yes, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
analogy. I actually, funny story, kind of going off topic, but I knew it was 2 seasons
Hmm.
ago. The guy's name was Brett. It was like
Oh
Tiffany
my
and Brett,
gosh.
that
I ran
couple.
into them at the mall. Okay, so you do your story and then I'll
Ex-
do my story.
Seattle gets smaller.
It's the Seattle season.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense. So this is a crazy story because I'm from
Yeah,
North
that's true.
Carolina.
Yeah, but you know what's so funny? I know
So
so many people from North Carolina who come to Seattle. Yeah. So, anyways,
really,
continue your story.
you'll have to
Yeah.
introduce us. So I went to a school in a
Uh-huh.
beach town, very small beach town. We had beach bars. That's where we would go out. I had my specific lineup of like which beach bars I
Hmm.
went to in what order. So 22 North was like my favorite one. And the bouncer there, his name was
Hmm.
Angus, and very distinct because I don't know anyone
Yeah.
else named Angus. And so that was like in 2017. I graduated
Uh-huh.
2018. This was, I guess the Seattle season was two
Yeah.
years
2 or
ago.
3, yeah.
Brett's brother came on the show, like when the partner, like the significant other meets
Yeah.
the family. His brother is Angus from
No way.
22
That's so funny.
in
Did
North
you hit him up?
Carolina. No, I did some stalking to figure it out, and then I asked my friends who still live there, and they were like, "Yeah,
Oh
that's
my gosh,
him."
that's so funny. What a small world. That's
So weird,
hilarious. You're
so
like, I
small.
know him.
All right,
Um,
I really was freaking out. I was telling everyone, no one else cares, but I'm like,
I would have cared. I mean,
"Oh
that's so cool.
my
My story is
god!"
far less fun. I was just at the mall, at Bellevue Square Mall, I was like walking through. I was in there to go to the bathroom, I remember, and I was just walking fast, trying to go pee. I like look over and like you're passing the stores, and there's like a couple standing just outside of the store, and I'm like, that guy kind of looks like Brett from Love Is Blind, and then he turns, I'm like, yeah, it's Brett from Love Is Blind, and then Tiffany's there too, and I make eye contact with her, and then I get scared and I start like walking really fast, and I walk in the wrong direction of the bathrooms because I'm just like trying to get out of there. And then I have to turn around and go back to go to the bathroom.
Oh no. She was
I know. I was
starstruck.
like, and then like I immediately
So
like,
you
get my
didn't actually
phone
say
and
hi?
like text it my clients who I've been like talking about Love Is Blind with. I was like, "Guess what? I just walked past," and they're like, "Did you say hi?" I'm like, no. They saw me awkwardly walk past.
I mean, they are like
I know, but no
celebrities, you
one else was
know?
looking at them. I'm like, do you guys not know the show?
I feel like everyone should
I
watch
know.
Love is Blind. It's like the
It's,
best
I love
trash
it. It's so
TV.
good.
Well, we can continue to chat about the next season
Yeah,
whenever that
we should have. I
happens.
feel
I'm
like
very
I need a
excited about
watch
this.
party at this point. Like I know so many people who watch it. We
Yes.
just need to have a watch party because it's so funny.
It's like The
Yeah,
Bachelor.
totally.
Like Bachelor watch parties, but
Yeah,
Love is Blind. I
yeah,
love this.
yeah. It needs to
I
be a
love
thing.
this. I'm here for this. Well, sorry about that tangent,
They
everybody,
wanted
but
to hear
Love is
it.
Blind is great. They wanted this, right? We know what they
Uh
want.
huh.
I hope they're smiling in their cars right now, just like having a
Or
great
maybe we'll
day because of our
influence them to
conversation.
start watching Love Is Blind, and they'll be like, "What is this trash
And
show?"
there's nothing in it for us
I
is the
know. We're
best
just
part.
like
We're
sharing
just
what we
like,
like. Story of my life.
yep. I'm pretty sure I knew somebody. Yeah, also me too. But I'm pretty sure one of my friends has a friend that was going to be in
Yeah,
Love
I
is
have so
Blind.
many, not so many, but a few clients who are like, oh, like
How
I know
many?
someone who knew someone who's going to be, or like I know someone who's on a, I'm like, how many people go on these dating shows? Like, how do you get on them? But,
Apparently, there's like a really big list of questions, like a whole
oh God.
questionnaire that you have to
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, honestly,
That's
like
how
if
they
I wanted
get.
to become a social media influencer, I'd get on that right away. But like, I'm okay now.
Yeah, the one guy had a girlfriend that was on
Yeah,
the
that was
show.
so funny when he got roasted on the radio.
They
That was
roasted that
hilarious.
man.
I was just like,
He like just left.
the embarrassment.
I can't. What are you thinking
Who
though?
knows?
But anyways, it was
Yep,
juicy,
super
and
juicy.
I hope he's doing
Yeah,
well. You
he's
know,
probably fine.
he's probably got a lot
Oh
of
yeah, he's
followers.
good.
He's probably
He's
fine.
thriving.
Yeah. um. So one thing I wanted to touch on, I know this is kind of like going back,
Yeah,
like driving
yeah.
back on the road.
Hey, we
That was a
wanted
really
girl
fun
talk. We
detour, though.
got girl
I
talk.
girl talk. It's like the girls
Exactly.
segment. Well, on that topic of like girls talk, I want to chat with you about like kind of what it's like being a woman in strength and
Mhm.
conditioning. Um, Not that it's bad. I think it's really
Mhm.
badass, actually. You know that one. I know so many awesome female strength coaches now, especially living here in
Yeah.
Seattle. Like we have this whole little
Yeah,
girls
I love
group.
it.
Well, it's actually a big girls
Yeah,
group
it's so
now.
awesome to see how it grew from like the first time we did it to like the second time we did it.
Yeah. So like has it been kind of difficult for you? Has there been kind of times where I don't know, maybe there's like some adversity in, whatever situation you were in, or has it been pretty okay?
I think I'm lucky in that it's been pretty okay because my first strength and conditioning job, I started at Maximum Sports Conditioning in Bellevue as an intern. My boyfriend actually owns this gym now, but we that's where we met actually. So we met at the gym. But so
Oh,
like I
cute.
mean, like for the most part, like my experience has always been like fairly good because the previous owner of the gym, DJ, his one of his big things, and now he's actually gone on to make this his career, is diversity and inclusion in the fitness industry in particular. So hiring people of color, hiring women, and just getting different like types of people into the industry, which I think was really huge to be able to be exposed to that from early on. Because most of the time, strength and conditioning, especially in the collegiate setting, even or private sector, all of that, it's usually like white males, and like to be able to be
Yeah.
a female an Asian American female, and then being in an environment where it was like that wasn't the case. I think that was great, but also like a culture shock realizing it's not always like that. You're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
different out there. Um, so for the most part, like it's been pretty great, and I think I've been really lucky. Like you've met Julia, my business partner, and like I've been really lucky to I think when I found her to work out of her gym for my business, it was really awesome to be able to like, oh, this gym is women owned, and it's like another female in this industry who is built herself up and become successful, and also is a business person. So I think I've always been lucky and been able to be exposed to that. So I haven't had a ton of adversity. Obviously, if you're someone who wants to be in the collegiate setting or like in the professional setting, that might be a whole different story. Or even like at a corporate setting
Right.
like yourself, a whole different story. But for the most part, I have been really lucky, I think, in that regard.
I think that's
Yeah,
wonderful. Like,
I
I
definitely
hope
don't
it's
take it
like
for
that.
granted.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope it's like that for a lot of other women.
Yeah,
Because I do know there's like the other opposite end of the spectrum where it's not
yeah.
like that. Um, but I do love to see more and more women come into the field and, being big parts of big organizations. And just there's a lot of firsts like
Hmm.
recently. There's a women's league in the NHL
Yeah.
now, like the
Yeah, and I think
WPHL, I believe.
the
Hoping
increase
I says
in
that.
viewership in women's sports that has happened lately, which is awesome. I think might encourage also more girls, not just to be athletes, but also just to be like, oh, like this is a job, like strength and conditioning is a job that I could do and be successful in. Because, like, again, like you don't know what's out there until you know, right? And like maybe a lot of girls have never heard of that before. Because I don't know about you, but when I majored in exercise science in school, it was um, like Seattle Pacific is a pretty girl heavy school. Like most of the students are girls, but like when you're in the classes, it's like everyone's PT, 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 and they're like strength and
Mhm.
conditioning, and they're like, "Who?"
Yep.
So it's like I feel like there's a great divide in what what females in exercise science tend to gravitate towards, and I mean that's fine. That's like what your interests are, but like maybe more exposure to like sports will like help more females get into strength and conditioning.
I know, I do. First of all, it's so funny. I was like, I want to go to
Yeah.
PT school. And then I'm like, nope, not
Yeah.
for me. Um, just a lot of
Mhm.
school.
For sure.
But like kind of like to reiterate what you just said, it's really cool just to see and hopefully to continue to see the
Yeah.
growth. But it just makes me feel super like proud and empowered to be a
Yeah.
woman. And I'm sure you probably feel the
Hmm.
same.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and it just makes me more and more passionate about helping women and especially on like the small platform that I have. I want to like amplify women's
Hmm.
voices, and just like I don't know, help them be heard if they don't have their voice out
Yeah,
there
for
yet.
sure. And I think
So,
like
yeah.
most of us who get in this male dominant industry like are like just very passionate about that in general, like being a woman and
Yeah.
knowing what you're getting into, like you got to stick together, and like it's stronger if you're together, and like women are amazing when they come together and like collaborate. So it's really like not even us against them, it's just like learning how to collaborate, building community and stuff like that is so like huge when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. And just like being taken
Hmm.
seriously
Yeah.
is something that I had always
Hmm.
struggled with, like feeling like I wasn't taken
Yeah, for
seriously.
sure. Or being talked over,
But
or like having, I mean, I feel like most females go through this, having your ideas
yeah.
taken and stuff like that. But again, like I'm super lucky in that like all my male colleagues are always really like good about that for sure.
Yeah, I will say I'm pretty lucky. Like all my guy coworkers are
Mhm.
awesome. Like I really ever since I worked at Exos, like they've all been awesome. My first experience, this is why I asked the
Yeah.
question. My first like I was
Hmm.
interning for free. I guess all interning is
Yeah.
probably free. But I, especially
Yeah.
in fitness, not
Yeah.
in tech at all, which is
I
so annoying.
know.
But I was interning and at the strength and conditioning gym, very small business, and I had my CSCS like right after
Hmm.
college. I took my test, and so I was interning and showing up really early. and just being there. And then this dude comes in. He like worked at Best Buy, didn't have a cert or like didn't have his CSCS
Yeah.
at least. And he comes in a few times and then he ends up getting a job over me. And I just remember feeling so sad. And that's when a lot of my self confidence in this field was like
Yeah.
taken
Shut
away because I'm
down.
like, is this because I'm a
Yeah.
woman? Like, that always just left a bad I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe they just didn't like my vibe. That's also
Yeah.
fine, but I took it that
Yeah, for
way.
sure. And obviously, like,
Yeah.
the fact that you came in, like, most interns don't come in with a CSCS typically. Like, they're there to learn as they're, like, studying to take it. So, like, that's wild.
Thank you. So, anyways, it worked out for the
Yeah.
best. It's just
Like you're,
and I think those situations make you
yeah.
grow
And
and
then, like,
like be more
especially, like,
aware
that
and then
being, like, your
like
first taste of the industry, too, probably was just like, oh, wow. This is what I'm getting
it
into.
really
Yeah.
was.
That's, yeah.
My feelings were hurt. I
Yeah,
was like, I'm
definitely.
done
I'd be
here.
like, well, screw all of y'all. I'm leaving.
I'm not gonna lie, I was like a little
Oh
bitter for
yeah,
a
I would be
while.
too. I like to be
Yeah,
petty, so I totally.
I was
Yeah, I
petty,
would be too.
but it was
Yeah,
deserved. Yeah.
but you're in a better place now, so
Um,
it was meant to be. They can have the Best Buy
you
guy.
know, like that's what I'm saying. Like you said before, everything happens for a reason. Like as cliche as it sounds, but like you are where you're
Hmm.
supposed to be. Just got to figure out
Yeah,
that reason
yeah, for
why.
sure. And that's easy to say, I
Yeah,
guess, when you're in a good spot now, but
I know.
probably a lot harder when life
When
is
you're
tough. Yeah,
frustrated.
for sure. But good reminders
Yep.
to take with
Yep.
you.
It's like daily. It's like positive affirmations. Like just keep telling yourself these
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
You
definitely, and it'll
know.
eventually one day be
Yeah.
true.
It's like a Pinterest
Yeah, a mood
board.
board.
Yeah. So I know I don't want to take your
Oh,
whole
you're fine.
evening because we are filming at night, even though the sun
And
is still
Emma
up
has a
and in my
big talk
face.
tomorrow.
I do. This was helping me calm down. I've been stress cleaning all day and getting all of my
That's
errands
so good
done
though.
because
So productive.
it is. It was
Yeah,
productive
so
at
good.
least. It was
It was
productive.
well used.
I wrote all the programs I
Oh,
needed
good.
to do. I'm like, is this what needs to happen all the time?
For me to be on top of my stuff. That's good.
Literally. Like, is this what
Yeah,
has to
now it's
happen?
out the way. Don't have to worry about it.
Yes, now I can just go
Yeah.
meditate. But I just wanted to say, well, first of all, before you leave us here, um, this is one question I always like to ask all my guests, and it's a little bit of a
Hmm.
deep one. Not too deep, not a deep cut. You can go as deep as you
Okay.
want, actually. Um, so, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Oh, this one could be deep.
Do what you want.
One piece of advice I'll give my younger self. Let's see. I'm trying to think what my younger self was like.
Yeah, manifest young
Yeah.
Laura.
I mean, probably be flexible because I'm still like this, but have learned better along the way. But like when I was younger, I was very set. Like I was like, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this. Because I was, very into horses and I was like, I'm going to be a horse trainer. But obviously, like life takes you different paths and like interests change. And you
Yeah.
look back and you're like, okay, maybe it was better off I didn't do that and left it as a hobby rather than like a job, like a career, and like, finding ways to make other hobbies your career, and stuff like that. So I would probably like tell myself to like be flexible and like, obviously, like I did let myself like go different directions, but like, it was hard to like leave one thing to do another, but being flexible and like and this is something that I do tell myself now still is like if the opportunity is um it's gonna help if you see that's gonna help advance you just say yes to it. So like just being open to saying yes and like not letting yourself be held back by like like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But that'll probably be my biggest piece of advice to my younger self, just because I remember being younger and being like very rigid and like what I wanted to do. But this, if I'd been a little bit more flexible, I maybe I would have gotten here faster. Who knows though? But like, I think it would just have helped my like mental state if I had just let myself been
Yeah.
less rigid in like what I thought I wanted to do.
I love that. I'm still like impressed with
Oh,
everything you
thanks.
do. So I think, no, literally, like, y'all, Laura does so much. Like, I don't know how you
I
do
don't
it
know either.
all, but yeah, you just turn your brain off
Yeah.
and do it, right?
Again, like that's the skill that I so appreciate having from a young age. Like no thoughts, just go.
Yeah, right. Think
Yeah,
about it later.
exactly.
Well, I can really appreciate your words of advice. I think younger Emma needed that
Yeah.
too. So, yeah, I appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
that. And I also like I just appreciate you being here today. This is so
Yeah, thanks for
fun.
having me. Thanks for asking me to be on. It's always fun to chit chat and like talk about, fitness and our jobs and sharing what we think is important
Yeah.
out there. So I appreciate the platform that you've created and all that. So
Of course. Thanks for being a part of
yeah.
it. Um, can you tell everyone where they can find
Yeah.
you?
So my Instagram is at Lil Laura Lifts. Laura without an A. I don't know why that ended up being like that. I think
I'm the
yeah,
same
I
way.
honestly don't know, but yeah, at Lil Laura Lifts. And then my website for training is www.liberatestrength.com. But if you're on my Instagram, like honestly, you can DM me. I'm really responsive, and all my links are in my bio, like any good business owner should have. So pretty easy to contact me, and I'm always like happy to chat with any questions or programming needs. So yeah.
Also spelled my name wrong. Like before, I was like, it's SCH for Schmid, but I had
Oh,
SH. For the longest time, it was like Schmitty. So I finally fixed it. I'm
you're
like,
like
why was
looking
I
at it, you're
like
like,
that?
that's wrong.
But I'm like, why did I
I don't
do
know. It's
that?
like a cutesy like social media handles. You're like, Miss Online. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, maybe people can read it
Yeah, no, you're like,
better.
no, it's just
I
my
don't
brand
know.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm glad I'm not the only one who did that.
Well, no, it's just like, man, that's an afterthought of like, actually, why
It's
is
just
this
like
like
coming up
that?
with a name for your business. You're like, why did I choose that? I don't know. Think about it later.
It
Yeah,
felt
it felt
right.
right, or I just needed it at the time. So, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It can always change. It can always
hmm
change.
Be flexible. It's all coming
Well,
back.
right. To end us off on that note, to send us off into our weekend, be
hmm
flexible.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you again,
Yeah, of
Laura,
course. Thanks for
and
having me.
we'll chat
Yeah,
soon.
chat soon.